Welcome to Reparenting Daily, your free daily guide for inner child healing and repairing the relationship with yourself. This podcast helps you establish a consistent reparenting routine and is divided into 3 sections. The first is the daily reading, the second is a discussion of the reading, followed by suggested journal prompts, and the last section is peaceful binaural beats meditation for closing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whenever and wherever you're joining us. I'm so glad that you could join us on this journey of self-expansion. If this is your first time here, welcome. As a celebration of passing episode 700, I've opened a free membership tier for the Patreon community so you can access additional resources and join the weekly Zoom calls for free. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now and that so many people are really struggling. My hope here is to still encourage others to continue the work on reparenting and to offer a free community where people can come together and do that. I'd also like to thank all of you who've been along on the journey so far. Just as a reminder, this is a free podcast, but you can support the project by purchasing the Reparenting Daily Journal, where you can follow us along all year. This 333-page journal gives you extra insight and resources for each week, and also provides space for you to keep your notes. Another way to support the podcast is to purchase the Fairy Tales for Reparenting series, volumes 1 through 3. This collection organizes famous and obscure fairy tales from around the world into the 3 phases of the hero's journey. While you might think that fairy tales are for kids, I'd like to challenge you. These stories contain profound truths and lessons carried down over millennia that we can use in our reparenting journey. It's a fun way to reconnect with your inner child. Each volume comprises 10 fairy tales. They include an analysis section to help you dive deeper into the message, as well as journal prompts and space to reflect on the story's meaning in your life. Lastly, you can also support the project by taking a paid Patreon subscription, by purchasing the books on the website, or by donating via Buy Me a Coffee. You can find all this information on the Support Us section of the website. So now, with these announcements out of the way, let's dive into today's practice. Today, we're going to be listening to a portion of a video entitled The Tantra of Flow State by Joseph Rodriguez. Just as a reminder, we're in April, and the theme for this month is developing structure and discipline. We're in week 3, and the theme for this week is developing discipline. Now, I've selected this video. Again, we'll only be listening to a portion of it. I encourage you to click on the link in the show notes to listen to it in its entirety. He does daily or weekly videos, again, about correct thinking, positive thinking, inner growth, personal alignment, empowerment, and also all of this as it relates to your personal journey of entrepreneurship and business development. I selected this talk because it struck me that there is a definite relationship between your ability to access flow state and the difficulty with which you sustain your discipline. When you are more in tune with the flow state, your discipline almost flows as a natural byproduct because you are in alignment with the universal energy, as correctly expressed through your own true nature. This is a natural driving force that allows you to maintain discipline with much less pressure. Alignment is everything. That's why I always encourage you to believe and to see, not just to believe, but to see that healing your trauma is not so difficult. It's a matter of alignment. Most of the therapists and resources available in the public service or even private therapists who don't have their own personal experience are not able to help you effectively. Many of the people who give solutions for reparenting have their own experience, but many don't. And that means that when you're talking to someone for guidance or help or support, if they haven't walked through it personally, they will not be able to help you. And I think that's why this therapy industry, coaching industry has kind of made it, seem much more difficult than it is to heal your trauma. You also have to keep in mind that therapists and coaches have a conflict of interest. The entire mental health industry is incentivized on profit, not healing. The mental health industry is prioritized on profit, not healing. And so they don't truly, as a whole, of course, not every single person, but on the whole level, there's not the natural incentive to help you get better quickly. There's a natural financial incentive to drag things out. Again, part of the reason why I created this project, because I truly believe that healing our CPTSD and reparenting ourselves is not as difficult as this industry has made it out to be. So many people just want to keep you stuck so they can keep charging you. And I'm tired of that. How many people in my support groups have been to therapy for 10, 15, 20 years, and the therapists don't even know about reparenting or inner child work? Now, these were older people, so of course, yeah, nowadays there's more knowledge because of social media, but so many older people went so long in their life without the right help. And so that's why I want to encourage you to think and consider how much easier your process of inner discovery and individuation will be once you are able to align to your flow state, because then your discipline is following naturally. So without further ado, let's go ahead and listen to Joseph Rodriguez. I will not have a reflection section today because the talk is quite long, and I'd like to encourage you to contemplate on your own and to reflect on how you notice your discipline is easier in some places and more challenging in others. And think about how that might relate to your ability to access the flow state, your own flow state.
I said, I let the world be to appear as I am. True self-acceptance. The great secret of life, the truth that sets you free, is to dwell in, with, and from the divine center within, that I am, as I and the Father are one. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tantric cosmology. In Tantric cosmology, the whole universe is perceived as being created, penetrated, and sustained by two fundamental aspects, which are permanently in a perfect, indestructible union. These universal aspects are called Shiva and Shakti. Shiva is the observer and Shakti the observation. From a metaphysical point of view, the divine couple, Shiva-Shakti, corresponds to two essential aspects of the One. Shiva can be looked at as pure being in its stillness. Shakti is pure becoming in flow and creativity, as well as the endless opening to possibility. So, we discussed this on the journey to actualizing our vision, to remain unconditional to, and thus unconditioned by appearances. Being eternally beyond conformity, you can witness the perfect and pleasing divine dance as appearances rearrange to appear as heaven on earth in increasing frequency on a continuous basis as far as the senses perceive. Be as I am. We referred to this in Sunday's video. I'll link in the description to it. Also inspired by Romans 12:2, in which it states, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." So we experience this while we're in a state of flow state, which is what I would like to discuss today. Practically experiencing what we're discussing by remaining in your flow, where, again, you find it easier to remain unconditional to, and thus do not allow the individual to be conditioned by appearances, forming an identity around appearances in which conditions are formed, in which the individual may say, if this condition appears, then I am blissful. Or if this condition does not appear, then I am not blissful. I am blissful. True self-acceptance, acknowledging that I am blissful. Satchit Ananda. As a matter of fact, that's one of the neurotransmitters that is released while you're in flow. Anandamide, which was named after, actually, the Sanskrit word Ananda, which means bliss. There are a number of neurotransmitters that are released in a perfect harmony and synchronicity while you're in flow, which is one of the reasons why I encourage remaining in your flow, and remaining in your flow in relation to your initiatives on the journey to actualizing your vision. This can be applied to any form of creative expression: visual arts, music, entrepreneurship, literature, dance, theater and performing arts, sports, film, culinary arts, to name a few. Remaining in your flow. We'll talk about how to do this in a moment. So while we're in our flow, we're able to purely observe the appearances, and we could say allow them to rearrange to appear as a form of creative expression, whatever you set the intention to. So for example, in dance, being in flow is perfect synchronicity with another individual, feeling one with the experience, spiritual integration, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual harmony. It is where this sense of the individual seems to rest assured, knowing that I am, fundamental reality in which all appears to be in harmony. Like stated in Mark 14:36, nevertheless, not what I will, but what thou wilt. I let the world be to appear as I am. So I let the world be to appear as I am in relation to appearances, in relation to my vision, in relation to the different aspects on the journey to actualizing my vision, whatever they may be. Skill cultivation, creative expression in, let's say, for example, in entrepreneurship. I look at flow-based conversations as a form of creative expression, relating ideally to appearances from the premise of truth, knowing that I am bliss. Let's talk about what occurs within while you're in flow, and then we'll talk about how to step into the flow and remain in the flow, and the benefits as a result of doing so. So neurotransmitters, for example, dopamine is released while you're in flow, which increases attention, information flow, and pattern recognition. The individual might be confused. What should I do? What should I not do? Should I think this? Should I not think that? What are the moves to make in relation to this creative expression? Well, it happens automatically, and ideally automatically, actually, while you're in flow. Pattern recognition is experienced. For example, if you're playing a musical instrument, you seem to flow with the musical instrument. I like how one of my clients had mentioned it, who plays the guitar, said that the guitar determines how it desires to be played. That's the kind of relationship the individual has with the musical instrument. They're both experienced as one. You could say Shiva Shakti. Norepinephrine also is released, which triggers a glucose response, and we experience having more energy, increased arousal, attention, neural efficiency, and emotional regulation. And this also can be experienced as a high. So an individual becomes deeply engaged in the initiative. They enjoy the process. For example, I love sales, I love communication, and I enjoy these aspects in my entrepreneurial journey. So in the earlier stages, I realized that there was a pattern. Every time I was in a flow state, I genuinely enjoyed these experiences. When I was not in a flow state, it appeared as I would imagine conflict. As we discussed in Sunday's video, which again I'll link to in the description, I consider thoughts, emotions, and behaviors and the outer aspects of life as appearances. So what appears through the five senses and the mental phenomena in relation to the five senses are appearances. And so the appearances would appear as imagining people in conflict in the various communities that I was involved with, friendships, relationships, business interactions, etc. Yet while I was in flow, I did not witness these imaginal conflicts in my mind's eye. Thus, I was not generating these experiences. Rather, what I was witnessing was harmonious seeing things from a mutually beneficial perspective, a reconciliation of divergence and convergence, which we'll talk about in a moment. Endorphins, which relieve pain and induce pleasure, are also released. This is also another reason why I recommend flow and being in your flow, as it's therapeutic. For example, individual experiences physical pain, might notice that they don't experience that physical pain anymore while they're in flow. Athletes who I work with report this to me. They may be going through some kind of physical pain or discomfort in the body. They get into the flow in the performance, and there's no pain. And what's interesting is after the game, the pain doesn't come back as they continue to maintain their flow. So there are different degrees of flow and different kinds of flow. There's more of a mellow flow. There's being deep in the zone. Yet we know when we're in flow because we can feel it.
Welcome back. Now, this is the third and final section of the daily podcast. This is your silent meditation. Please find a place where you can be comfortable and undisturbed, where you can relax and spend some time with yourself for the next 10 minutes. You can choose to be sitting, standing, lying down, or in whatever position makes you most comfortable today. Just take some time to listen to yourself. Next, be sure that you're taking time to be with your breath and to connect more fully with your body. Don't be disturbed or overwhelmed by your thoughts. Simply allow them to pass. Just observe them. Do not engage with your thoughts. Only be mindful of them passing, as if they are leaves drifting down top river. Use this time to connect with yourself, whatever time of day you are listening to this. Namaste.